And Paul is off this week, so Eileen and I will sort of soldier on if we can.
Do the best we can.
Do the best we can. And Eileen, the weather has certainly been interesting. We are patiently awaiting the arrival of spring. Even
Talk
though
about a roller coaster ride.
My goodness. I mean, the calendar says it's spring, but it certainly has not been feeling like spring.
And the poor daffodils that have tried to come up and the crocuses look very sad since we had our little bit of snow and ice this week. But hopefully it will warm up and spring is coming.
I hope so. I mean, we went by a patch of daffodils the other day, and they all had their heads bent over. It looked so sad. I mean, it really did, but hopefully that's going to change pretty quickly.
As long as we're not bent over and sad, we're all set.
That's true. That's true. Things are definitely going to get better, folks. That's for sure. As you can see, we have two very special guests with us today, one of which is a face I'm sure that's very familiar to you, and to my far right. And the guest nearer to me is not as familiar, but will be within the next few minutes.
Yes, absolutely. And as you all probably know, Mary Anderson, who has been the executive director of the Family Pantry of Cape Cod for 11 years now, Mary?
Yes.
I can't believe that. But she is a friend to the show and has been on many times. And we welcome her to give us some very special news about the other person to my right.
This is like that TV show, The Mystery Guest Will Sign and Please, right? Well, not really breaking news because it's been out a little bit in the community, but I am planning to retire at the end of April. So people tell me I look younger and happier, so I'm certainly not happy to leave the pantry. It's been a great 11 years, and I'll never leave the pantry. I love the pantry, but it's time to step back and let someone else manage the pantry. And that brings us to my good friend, Christine Menard. The board of directors hired Christine about a month ago, and she started Monday. And I knew right away we were going to get along really well. We're two of those rare people on the planet that do not drink coffee. We drink tea. That's true. So we have lots of other good stuff in common, too, but it's with great pleasure that I welcome Chris. She's got terrific background at Stop and Shop, and as you know, we are a food business at the pantry, tremendous management experience, and for the last almost 2 years, Chris has done just about every job at the pantry, so she comes into it knowing quite a bit. Without further ado, Christine Menard.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning. This is very exciting for me. I have worked behind the scenes with the pantry for years. I worked with Mary's dad when he first started the pantry. I was a store manager at Stop and Shop, and he would call me and say, "What do you got?" And,
and I can just hear him saying
Yes, and I can see his expression.
yes. And then we would negotiate whatever sale item he was looking for. And then he would come in and pay me in gift cards. And there would be a stack of them that you would have to process. So that was my early experience. And then it grew to a really huge relationship with Stop and Shop for a number of years. I've spent about 30 years in the retail business. 20 of that was with Stop and Shop, and then later on with the parent company of Stop and Shop, so a lot of time in the food industry. And then I retired, and this I think is the shortest retirement. So I retired about 18 months ago, and I gave myself 3 months to do nothing, which I did grudgingly, and then I started to volunteer at the pantry. And I have done so in a number of different roles. I was the volunteer coordinator. I ran the garden, which I affectionately have named the Beast. Ran the garden for the summer, and then I've stocked shelves as well as I was also an elf for Christmas. So I've done a little bit of everything. I understand the culture, the nuances of the pantry, and I am just so happy to be here. This is just such a nice feeling when you come into the building and you're doing good things, and we take good care of people, and everybody that's there in the building wants to be there, and it is, this is just something I fell in love with, and this was probably the easiest decision I have ever made.
Well, that's really nice to hear. That really is. You know, going back to the garden for a minute, I think that's probably one of the the least known aspects of the pantry because people don't really see that even though
Right.
it's there.
point.
What do you actually grow there?
Yeah, this is pretty amazing. We have a 9,000 square foot garden that was started, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I
about
think.
that.
And this is phenomenal. Last year we grew just shy of 2 tons of product.
Oh my goodness.
We had about 25 to 30 regular volunteers, and it ended up between the garden, what we could grow, our partnerships with Chatham Bar's Inn's garden, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and BJ's that we bought no produce last summer.
Isn't that wonderful?
And the product that we could bring to our clients was phenomenal.
Gorgeous.
It's just gorgeous. They would see it and they would just fall in love. So, excuse me, it was just a really great thing to kind of stumble into. I've gardened on a small scale. I had never gardened on this size. And there was a gentleman named Al Donahue who was my partner in crime, who helped tremendously. So this was just a really great thing. And like I say, people don't know about it, but it is a huge benefit to our clients because produce is expensive.
Yes.
We wouldn't have the garden without the town of Harwich. That
Yes.
land that
Yes,
the
that's a
garden
good
sits
point, Mary.
on is actually owned by the town, and it's sort of dead space to them because it's by the power lines.
Right.
So we have a 5-year lease to use that for the garden, which we just renewed, so we now have another. So we're very grateful to the town of Harwich for that support.
That's
Wow,
wonderful.
That is really wonderful.
Could you give us just a brief history of how the pantry began, just so we have an idea of
Sure.
where it started, where it's going, and maybe Chris can fill us in a little
Chris
bit after
can
that.
take
as
us to the
yes,
future.
Yes,
Yeah,
as
right,
what
right.
you
Great,
see
great.
as the vision of the pantry from here.
Great. It started, it's 26 years ago at this point.
Is it
Very,
really?
Yeah. Yeah, we had the
Wow.
25th party a couple
That's right.
summers ago.
That's right.
And it was a tiny storefront on 28 by the West Dennis, no, not the West Dennis, Dennisport, West Harwich town line. So little tiny storefront. I bet it was maybe as big as the studio. And it started from the St. Vincent de Paul Society out of Holy Trinity Church. So at that time, Father Gabriel Healy was the pastor there, and they were finding it difficult to keep up with cash donations to give people who needed food. So there was a small group of 5 individuals that decided, and I guess it was controversial at that time with some of the folks at the St. Vincent de Paul Society, but 5 of them decided they were going to do this and started the pantry. They ran a food drive 4th of July weekend and collected bottles and cans, which Jack is very familiar with that task. That's where it all started. Their rent was $1,000, and they needed enough bottles and cans to have $1,000 to pay the rent. That's how they started.
Wow.
My mother just found a picture, which I gave to Pat, of the original pantry. I had never seen one, and I don't think I was ever in there. It was tiny. The shelves were probably as big as this table, and you know, I know now why my father would look and see where we got to with the freezers with meat and the fresh produce. He sometimes would be overcome just looking at all of that, because that's where they started. They were there about a year and moved into a rented warehouse on Depot, and they were there maybe, my math is probably off, but maybe 8 years there, and now they bought the building. That was before I got here. They bought the building with help from Charlie Chamberlain and Rick Hamlin, who owned the commercial building, and they helped the pantry purchase the building, took a second mortgage. Now the pantry's been at that location, I think, about 14 years. In the beginning, I don't know what, there weren't good numbers when I got there. I said to Chris, this is so, so different. When I got there was a desk and there were no papers. It's like, okay, well, I wonder what's been going on here. And now, you know, this
It was
is
a secret.
I guess. Well, I don't think they wrote much down.
Right.
And they
right.
weren't computer people.
Right,
So now I said to Chris, now I feel worse for you because I have too much paper. I have paper everywhere. And I threw a lot of it out, but there's still a mountain. So that's the difference 11 years can bring.
And there's a mountain because of where you have taken the pantry from when you took over.
Well, we've had some progress, and it's
Yes,
not
you
me.
have.
It's the volunteers. We're up to 500 volunteers.
Are you really?
When I got here, I think we were about 100 volunteers, and we served about 500 families a month. We're now taking care of 1,200 families a month with 500 volunteers. So it clearly has grown based on the need. And we've expanded our hours. We've added 2 swing shifts to stay open the complete day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and a Thursday evening shift, 5 to 7, to help download Saturday, which is when a lot of the working people come. So that's the pantry history, and then our other little venture, 7 years ago, 8 years ago?
Yes.
We opened a thrift shop, again in a little tiny shop, and that must be our thing. We move once and then we buy a building because we're following that pattern. So the thrift shop has become an incredible revenue stream for the pantry, and I think, you know, we rely on donations and are very grateful, but I think donors and funders, people that give us grants, like to see that we put in a little sweat equity for our business. And the bottles and cans program is certainly part of that, and the thrift shop has become our largest revenue stream. So,
and moving to a bigger space has
Yes.
allowed you now to
Yes.
take donations of furniture and home goods,
right.
which I understand there's a need for.
Right, that's the furniture that's why we wanted the larger space. We really didn't have a choice in the move. The building is supposedly going to be torn down, so we couldn't get our lease extended. So the
Yes.
board was really forced into some strategic planning on what to do, and the decision that just kept taking us back to we have to move forward is we needed to protect that revenue. And grow it. That's how we feed people. So the new building has allowed us to get into the furniture business. So that's part of what we wanted to talk about. Chris, maybe you want to tell the furniture story?
So when we have a woman, her name is Carol Shaw. She is the store manager and does a wonderful job, an extensive background in the thrift business. So she likes to do events, and so one of her first events, and here it goes, is a Wild Wicked Wicker Weekend.
Congratulations! You did a great job on that.
And it will be on Saturday, April 16th, and Monday, April 18th, which is Patriots Weekend. And at that point, all the wicker that we have kind of garnered over the past few months will be displayed, and you can get a jump start on what you need for the summer season. So we will do that. And then she has a number of other events that she has cooking in the back of her mind that we will have going through the summer, and partnership with some of the other thrift stores on the Cape. So lots of great things that are going to happen there. So we're very excited about where it was a good decision with what we did.
It really was, yeah.
As we said, we can take furniture, unupholstered furniture.
Right,
We should make
right.
sure we say it's unupholstered. And that's something you want to call the shop for, and Carol will talk to you about the furniture. But we also are in need of household items, not necessarily plates. Type of plates and glasses, not so much, but other types of household items and small appliances. Those are really great things that we can use, and it's a great revenue stream for us. So we're going to be doing that, and then as Carol says, just kind of wait and see, because I was with her last night, and I think she listed 6 or 7 different things that she wants to do for the summer. So a lot of good things to come, and if you don't know where we are right down the street from Holy Trinity Church on 28. Look for the big bright blue sign, and you will see where we are located. So a lot of good things going on at the thrift shop.
And that is a beautiful facility.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's brand new.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is.
You will never think you're walking into a thrift shop when
That's
you walk
for sure.
into
That's
her
for
shop.
sure.
Our good friend Rick Roy did the renovation of the building, and he's just fabulous to work with and a great friend to the pantry. So it is gorgeous. It's 265 West Main Street. So stop in and see what's there. And if you wanted to call Carol about the furniture, it's 432-0636.
Yes, and as one of the many volunteers that work at Second Glance, I happen to work on Wednesdays, and I still am getting so many compliments and so many comments about the beautiful store and how it looks like an upscale boutique, and people just love coming and shopping, and they love to get a bargain, of course, and we're very well aware of that when pricing. So please come down and take a look.
Great.
We have been very, very lucky to have such a wonderful facility as the Family Pantry to help so many families. And we certainly welcome you, Christine. We know that it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful transition. We know it's going to be seamless, and we congratulate you, Mary. We congratulate you on your retirement.
Thank you.
And we thank both of you, Mary, for your service, Christine, for your, what we know is going to be a very successful run.
It's hard to tell who's happier.
Could you give us a brief idea of some of the things you're thinking about doing in your retirement?
I am going to be working, at least for a few months after I retire, helping with grant writing and the gala, which maybe we could mention the gala, and the capital campaign for the new building. And from there, I told Carol, the manager of the thrift shop, I want to volunteer for her.
Oh,
I want to be over at Second Glance. So that's always been sort of my fun thing. When I had spare time, I'd go over and volunteer. So that's my, and other than that, being a grandmother and enjoying Cape Cod.
Great.
Wonderful.
Great.
Well, we wish you both the best of luck
Thank you.
Thank you.
in your
very
endeavors.
much.
Can we just plug the gala? Do you have
Go
a
right
minute?
ahead. Plug the gala, because I know we're getting the wrap-up sign here, so plug the gala.
The summer gala this year is Sunday, June 5th. It's 5 to 8. It's at the beautiful Witchmere Beach Club. We're so fortunate. Tom and Shelley O'Neill and David and Nikki Metzler are our hosts of the event. Thank you. It'll be a beautiful night. If you haven't been before, it's unlike a lot of events. There's not an auction. There's not a raffle. Once you buy your ticket, and admittedly the tickets are expensive, they're $150, but once you have your ticket, you come and have a good time. It's an open bar. It's incredible hors d'oeuvres, a beautiful view, and entertainment. North Shore A Cappella will be there, and the Nauset music group, Abby Pollock's group from the Monomoy. So fabulous night. So if you want to come, call the Pantry, 432-6519, and let us know.
Very good. Well, again, thank you both for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you here on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Best
a
of
lot.
luck.